Hop on. Let's see. Just came in from a jog. Oh, well, that's good. Then you should feel good. Disgusting, but I mean, it's sweaty, but good. 2 months in real estate. Hope to learn lots. I hope I can teach you a lot. I don't know. I really do hope so. I feel like I have a lot in my brain, and that's kind of what these calls are on the Tuesdays. Every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And so, in case you've never been to one of these Zooms, Beyond the Commission is basically like everything in the world that I do or other people have done. Most of the time, I have guest speakers come on, but we talk about all the things that we can do either with our license, with our audience, and just more ways to monetize everything that we're doing than just commission. And if you are in real estate or in real broker, then you'll know that there are plenty of ways to monetize even inside of just that company aside from just commission. There's a lot of different options like rev share, and there's stock awards and all these fun things. But even outside of that, there's all these other options as well. Like I monetize my Facebook page, and I have an Amazon store, so people who want to an Airbnb, they can have the links to my Amazon store and all of the products that we sell, and or I guess all the products that we use, and I get commission off of that. I've flipped houses. I have lots of Airbnbs. I have an Airbnb management company here in South Louisiana, which is my baby, and I love it. I'm teaching courses on that as well. So, like, just to give you like a little bit of a tidbit, I guess, of all the different things that you can do with your license, with inside of real estate and all that stuff. The last few weeks, we've had lots of investors talking about how they got started. I'm hoping that this call will convince Miss Corinne to get on one of our calls soon because she's actually an amazing investor. I've worked with her for a long time, and she has acquired a lot of properties on her own in some very unique ways. And I don't even know if she realizes how unique it is. So I do want to get her on here soon to talk about her adventure in real estate too. But in the meantime, today I am leaving. I'm gonna go to Phoenix to meet Eric Hatch and Sharon Srivatsa, and I'm gonna go to a train the trainer out there. So that I'll be in there tomorrow. So I was like, okay, what can I leave them with? Because I didn't necessarily have a speaker today. What can I leave them with that'll be really good? So I just decided to go with my experience with flipping houses because I think that that's a good one to learn. A lot of people want to know about it. A lot of people want to learn it. And I mean, to me, it's easier than it looks, and it's not. So so I feel like if you jump in and you do anything, you're gonna figure it out. That's the only way to kind of do it. And some parts of it'll be difficult, and some parts of it will be so much easier than you anticipated. And I just, hope that people know what they're doing. I think that it's important to know this kind of information, even if you don't ever plan on doing any kind of flipping. But because a lot of us tend to work with investors at some point in time, this is information that we should definitely try to understand in the event that they're looking for something, or you're trying to help them with a transaction that you want to be knowledgeable about. Because believe it or not, I get a lot of calls from realtors that are like, hey, I need you to see this property. It's awesome. It's a perfect flip. I want you to check it out. And then I go and look at it and I'm like, well, it's priced at market value. Like there's no profit margin in this whatsoever. So like there's not really much I can do with this, but like in a few months, whenever they drop their price, keep me posted. I'll be around in that event. Um, and I mean, I feel like right now, just having more options and more tools in our pockets is important because the market is constantly shifting. We're constantly having lawsuits and changes and new paperwork and just all these things that make our job, a little more difficult or just less stable. So having these extra options for other income sources to me is kind of the way to go. I guess since I was young, I was always taught to have 5 to 7 income sources at any given time, which I do think is a good thing to do, even in your investments. So, because you never know when one might be up or one might be down. So it's good to have, a basket of a few different options so that you can always have some kind of income. So that being said, um, I'll tell you how I got started in flipping houses, and it is kind of a funny, randomish story. So back in, I think it was 2020 potentially, I was sending out mailers to neighborhoods, which I know that most of us have all done at some point in time for clients that were looking in that neighborhood and looking for something specific. So, I did the whole like, I have this client, he works at such and such. This is what he's looking for. This is the budget that he's looking for. And during that time, that was what you did if you wanted to find a house, because on the market you weren't going to find anything necessarily, or you would be in a bidding war with someone trying to get the house. So a lot of times I would get a response from these letters, but it wasn't always like the timing wasn't always right. So probably by the time this particular client reached out to me, I think I had already found a property for this particular gentleman and he had moved on. But they were still interested in selling their house or their townhouse because it was a neighborhood of townhouses, and they lived out of state. They bought the townhouse, I guess, years ago when they got married and kept it as a rental property for all those years. So during that time, they just had, tons of renters. And I guess they just felt like, you know what, if we're going to sell top dollar, like this is the time. And I don't disagree. It was the time. Like if they really wanted to get the most they could for their house, this was the time. So I said, okay, well, let me go take a look at the house. I think there was a tenant in it at the time that was about to move out. So I got to go take a look at it. And I looked at it and I said, how would you feel if, if I helped you maybe get a fresh coat of paint on the walls and some fresh floors and maybe a couple pieces of new lighting? Because I really felt like it was very outdated. And just with a tenant that had been there for such a long time, I just felt like it was going to need paint anyway. So, like, why not? Why not give it like spruce it up a little bit? And so that's kind of where it all began. Because they were out of state, I helped to get the subs in and to get their flooring done and to get their painting done. And then Kevin and I, my husband and I, just decided to go the extra mile and go ahead and paint their cabinets because they were such an old color, like a very outdated color. So we, slapped some gray on there, changed the handles and got it looking really cute, changed the dining light fixture and the light fixture in the kitchen, and voila. We suddenly had what looked like a completely updated and renovated townhouse. And I ended up listing that and selling it within just a couple of days, of course, for higher than anyone had ever sold a townhouse in that neighborhood. So that was a big win for us. Well, then the next thing you know, they're telling their friends about it. And their friends have similar houses that they maybe purchased whenever they got married. They moved on to bigger houses when they started having a family, but they kept this little house so that, as a rental property. And of course, being the top of the market, they were ready to cash out and get as much money as they possibly could for this house. And so we're doing a second house, So next thing you know, I'm doing a second house. I'm sourcing all of the the lighting and the doorknobs and the handles and the I'm picking the colors because hey, we're realtors, we're good at that, right? Because we have to pick them for other people all day long, whenever we're helping people list their houses. And next thing you know, we've got a second one. And believe it or not, I don't even think that one hit the market. The guy at the paint store that sold us the paint bought the house because that's how desperate people were in 2020. So I don't even think it ever hit the market. It was sold before listed, done, gone. And that began our career in flipping houses. So after that, I started getting like calls from people, attorneys and things like that, friends of mine or past clients of mine that would say, hey, I saw that you're flipping houses. I'd really like to do that. I'm like, okay, sure. Like, let's go. Let's do that. And so basically, they had no intention of ever purchasing a property or flipping it themselves. Like they just wanted to make the investment. So I think the first couple, we probably bought it share sell together. So that was an adventure. And I remember like even after I learned how to do it well, like bringing a group of realtors to the sheriff sales because I wanted to show them, okay, like this is how you do it. Like it's really fun. Like it's, because it is still an auction, and that's always really fun. And but anyway, so we continued on. We ended up getting crew that we liked. So after trying a few crews and a few people that we found this crew from through another realtor that also renovated houses sometimes. And she's like, yeah, you can definitely have their number because she wasn't somebody that necessarily flipped houses all the time. She was more of an investor that would purchase them, renovate them, and then keep them as a rental. Sometimes she would flip them, but it's not like she was holding on super tight to this group of people that were helping her with these renovations. So she was, glad to help them out too. And that's where everything really started ramping up. But initially it was, and it's still to this day, is sometimes like my clients who just wanted to invest the money and to get a return on their investment because they know that they're probably going to do better than the stock market in this scenario. So that is, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Um, so that's kind of my history in it. So I've been doing it for about 5 years. Slowed down a little bit this year because the market started to shift into the buyer direction. At least here, I know that's not everywhere, but here, that's kind of the direction it's gone. We definitely have more options right now for buyers than we do. It's definitely a buyer's market. So I've slowed down a little bit on which properties we do and how many we do. But I've been doing it pretty consistently for about 5 years. So I just kind of wanted to tell you guys and let you, and of course, we don't have a whole lot of people on the call today. So feel free to like unmute yourself and ask questions if you want to. So it's more of a conversation because I like to be casual that way. But yeah, so I would say that, people's first question is like typically like, where did you find these houses? So I found houses all over the place. You'd be surprised. I still get calls from people I've gotten houses from other realtors that went to see a house to list maybe for a friend. And they're like, oh my gosh, like it's got mold in the closet. And like, I just don't think that they have the capacity or the means to make these repairs that they need. Like it's pretty bad, can you come take a look at it? And so there were a couple scenarios like that where I ended up buying the property direct and then direct from the seller because they were kind of in a bad spot. And during that time too, they were giving out, I guess, a lot of the like if people were behind on their mortgages, they were giving money and they were wiping out debt and all kinds of stuff. So this lady, even though I bought the house for a lower price, she actually walked away pretty well because of those extra incentives that were happening during COVID, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I've had, people reach out to me wanting to list their house. And when I show up, kind of similar situation where it's like, it really wasn't in a condition to list on the market necessarily. So I've gotten people that way. And at one point, I even, because we were doing so well with it, I started paying for some lists, like for some lists of different, like you can pay for different lists online, like with Batch Tracer and Batch Dialer and stuff like that. You can get lists of people that may be on the verge of selling, or maybe there's a succession and they haven't sold the property. But a lot of the people that are involved in a succession, they don't have any interest in keeping the property. They actually don't have any interest in doing much at all to a property because, for them, it's a lot of work, especially if people have family or parents that lived here, but maybe they'd already moved out of state and stuff like that. So I've gotten some properties even from that. One of my favorite properties of all times, and you guys are going to think I'm completely nuts, which is totally fine because most of the time I am, was a hoarder house. It was incredible. So this lady was not a dirty hoarder. I mean, it was dirty. Okay, don't get me wrong, because there was so much stuff in it. I don't even know if she knew she had a cat, because when we started unearthing some stuff, we did find, like kitty litter and stuff. I'm sure she knew she had a cat. Where this cat lived, I don't know. But when she ended up moving into kind of like an assisted living facility or a memory care facility, and she didn't really have family. It was actually one of our local pharmacists that had her kind of, I don't know if committed is the word, but like he knew that she didn't have family and it was time and she had to move in. So some way or another, there was an agent that listed this house and they listed it as is with everything in it. And it was amazing because she was a like a home shopping network porter. Okay. You know, like Home Shopping Network, you could tell some of the stuff from was from like Bed Bath and Beyond, some of it was from the dollar store. We found purses with money still in it. We found the craziest things in this house. But when I tell you that we were able to donate, I think like three full U-Hauls to Salvation Army here. And then we still had another like two or three U-Hauls of good stuff, like of dishes and pots and pans and all these things that she had purchased, purses, clothes. We donated so much new clothes with tags on them to to some homeless outreach places downtown. It was incredible. It was like the best time of my life. So it was during Thanksgiving break. I made all of my kids, like, we didn't do Thanksgiving that year. We went through this house and we donated so much stuff. It was amazing. And then what we knew we could use, like for Airbnbs or whatever, we did take home and put in storage. All of that stuff has since been used or donated or whatever. It's completely gone, like all of it. But it was incredible. So sorry, Porterhouse story is still my favorite story. Thank you, Tiffany. It is my favorite. It was so great. Um, but so basically, like, that's kind of it. I never know where I'm going to find these houses. People contact me. You can actually, so when I did pay for these lists, what I did was I paid for a VA overseas. She was very inexpensive. I want to say she was maybe $4 or $5 an hour. She would call the leads. I'd give her a script, and then once she would get somebody interested in potentially selling, like somebody that was involved in a succession, then I'd give them a call. I'd come over. Hey, what can I do for you? Like, you don't want to mess with any of the stuff in the house? Cool, I got you, because I'd already done that and I know what that's like. And I found all kinds of cool things. So that was kind of my MO from there on. Like, you don't want to deal with this house? I'll take it. Like, because you find the coolest stuff that people hide. Try to, if you ever get a house like this, do not miss anything in this house. You open every door, you look in the cabinets underneath, you find their little hit, because these little old ladies have some little hidden pockets. We found thousands of dollars in this house that she just had hoarded all over. And of course, she wasn't even, didn't have family, wasn't even coherent enough to even know. So, it was quite the blessing. We blessed a lot of people with this house. Anyway, so you can do all there's all kinds of different ways that you can do it. Will I tell you that I'm the best person to teach you how to do like the batch dialing and all that? Probably not. There's plenty of YouTube videos about that if that's something that you want to do. I do still have that VA connection though. If somebody wanted to use her, absolutely, I can absolutely give you that. She's great. She's wonderful. In fact, I paid for her to go to real estate school in the Philippines so that she would understand the process of like how we do things. Although it's very different there, but I just wanted her to have an understanding of, kind of what we do. But so then when I would go to see the houses, I would do my best assessment. If there was time for me to do a home inspection of like a full home inspection, or if I felt like it needed it, then I definitely would do it. But most of the time it was just me going in to check things because I mean, 9 times out of 10, like especially in houses like that, you're gonna have to start over, you know? You might need a new roof, you might need some foundation repair, you might need to gut the walls, like you don't know. But basically I would go in and I would kind of assess sort of room by room, like what does this space need? And I would put together a budget. So my calculations were always like the cost of the house plus the cost of renovations and like whatever maybe real estate commissions. I never wanted that to be more than like 75% of market value. Now, depending on what it was, like depending on um, what the situation was, or I might have been a little more comfortable with, being flexible on those numbers. But for the most part, that was kind of where I would stay. So like cost of the purchase plus the cost of like, um, just all the repairs that I came up with and whatever holding costs I needed, I would try to keep that below 75% of market value because you never know what's going to happen. One, you want to make sure that you have enough wiggle room to make a profit. But two, it's like the market, the way it is here right now, I don't know where all of you are, but it has shifted drastically. And I've seen a lot of investors that have been just having houses sit on the market for an extended period of time. And so you just like, at least right now here, I do urge people to be a lot more conservative in their numbers and to be conservative about their, their pricing with the sellers and stuff like that. I will share my screen just so that I can show you this the calculator that I use. In fact, I probably have lots of calculators. I have so many things on this computer. If you ever need anything, I promise you, if you message me, I likely have it. I mean, anything and everything inside of real estate. I have so much stuff from the last like 16 years. So hang on just a sec. It's just like not letting me see the share button. It's being ornery. So I am just trying to get it to behave for me, but it's not wanting to. Why? I don't know. It's just being goofy. I'm gonna get it. You're just gonna have to be patient because I just kind of wanted to show you the calculator that I would use. And of course, like when you get good at this, like get good at calculating, you're gonna start to kind of know what makes sense. There we go. Okay, now I got my share button. You're going to start to understand the numbers. You're going to start to see, or just know what things will cost. You're going to understand. Oh, geez, today is just not the day because I'm trying to do things so quickly. Don't close, don't close. All right. Okay. Can everybody see this construction checklist? You can see it? Okay. Awesome. Okay, so this was an actual property that we did end up renovating. So I would gladly give you this if you would like it. The email, if you want to email me. Okay, Michelle gave me a thumbs up. I'm going to go ahead and put let's see, Beyond the Commission email. Beyond the Commission, if I can spell it. I see your hand. I'm coming. Beyond the Commission at gmail.com. Voila. Okay. If you email me, I will send you this checklist. Okay. That way, well, it is a checklist, but it's also like how we do the budget. But I will say that when I'm doing this, the majority of what I'm doing is in the labor that I'm paying the contractors or the subcontractors. And also, whenever we're doing it, I'm also negotiating like, can you buy the paint? Can you buy like the crown molding and the quarter round and stuff like that? Because I don't want to have to like stop and bring a truck, which I'm not going to do, to go and pick up quarter round and molding, right? Like those types of things. If it's lumber, if it's things like that, I would leave that on them. Everything else, I would purchase myself, partially because I was designing it, but also because, they're not going to go pick out, fancy lighting and fans for me and the knobs that I like. So, but this is like the whole thing, but I'm going to go over it. Ms. Corinne, you had a question? No? You just figured out the raise your hand button? Awesome. That's okay. Okay. So what I will say is that anytime that I would walk into a house, I never knew what I was getting myself into. Okay. Because you never knew what was there until you got there. So it's not like I can necessarily pick designs like right off the cuff without seeing the house. But once I saw the house, I kind of had an idea. I will say that the majority of the time when you are renovating houses, especially if you're renovating kind of in the same price point and you're trying to keep within a certain price range, which the lower end, so first time home buyer price point, you will never fail. Like you will always be good if you're in that price point because even in a down market, the two people that are going to buy is going to be first time home buyers and investors. So I always would kind of steer that way. I know other people that are totally fine doing, $1 million plus properties in this area, which for Louisiana, that is not inexpensive, but they're fine doing that. Good for them. I, appreciate them. But my nerves and my, risk level is at like the first time home buyer range because I know that I can sell that all day long, no matter what. So that's kind of where I would stick, just, for some reference. And then in terms of like the design itself, like, okay, well, how do I pick colors? How do I choose cabinets? How do I know what hardware to choose? Like, what's the most popular thing right now? The easiest thing in the world to do is just to go look at new construction. And I'm not talking about the big box builders like DSLD and DR Horton, all that. No, just that's a no, no, skip it. Go to like one of your local, more boutique builders that is really doing well. So, like here, we have Manual Builders. They're awesome. And not only do they have like all of their stuff online, they have like even the color, like they have their palettes, they have their color palettes, they have the different designs that you can choose from for like the hardware, the faucets, everything. So a lot of times I'll either go look at that new construction because if you see what's sold recently, you know what people are into right now. You can literally just rip off the colors and of course it might not be exactly the same colors, but it could be, but you can kind of get a gist of what people are looking for, what they want. Because if those houses are selling like hotcakes and they're a hot item on the market, then you know that people are loving the colors, they're loving all the hardware, they're loving the fixtures, they're loving the cabinets, whatever it is. But you can literally like duplicate that look inside of a renovated property. And so that's what I did a lot. And I will say that I feel like I kind of have a knack for getting the best deals, not just on the labor, but also on like the product. So I'll tell you another story. The last time that I was at a real convention in Las Vegas, I was in a hotel and somebody was asking me, like, well, where do you find this stuff? Like, how do like, I don't know, it's so expensive, da da da. And I'm like, okay, look, easiest thing in the world to do. We were in this really, really nice hotel in Las Vegas, and I pointed out a light fixture. I'm like, you see that light fixture right there? She's like, yeah. So I took Amazon, I opened up my Amazon app, and I I used the like Amazon has like Google Lens. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? The little lens where you can take a picture. This, can y'all see that? So when you press that thing, then you can take a picture. So what I did was I went around the hotel with her and I took pictures of the lighting, each piece. And as I was doing it, I was finding the knockoffs on Amazon for like $100. You know that hotel probably paid three, four, 500, maybe $1,000 for some of these light fixtures. Amazon's got the knockoffs for $100 all the time, all the time. So that is how I would keep my budget so low on a lot of these projects. And then obviously the responsible side of me would sit here and do this because the artistic side of me wants to go crazy and have all the most amazing things and an accent wall, which is a good idea, by the way, because those actually are in. But yeah, but this was like the adulty side that would sit here once I looked at the property and figured out the square footage and brought over the contractor or our subs, figured out what the labor was going to be. Don't forget dumpsters. Everybody forgets dumpsters. You have to have them. But I put all of the stuff in here, like everything that I thought the property would need. Like sometimes in a kitchen, the cabinets were good and we could just paint them. Well, cool. Then that goes into the labor costs. And I might just have to change the handles on that one. But in other ones, we'd have to change all the cabinets. So I would have to put in a budget for all the cabinets. So once I kind of got this down, everything that the property needs, the very last thing that I would do is put in an emergency fee. Okay, this says 10% emergency. This was probably one of my first, properties because eventually I started putting in 20% emergency. Because some of these properties, especially on the older houses, when we would start, removing cabinets, removing walls, like, trying to take out old, ugly, nasty tubs, and we would find plumbing poorly done or just stuff that was like, just you almost always find a surprise. So you want to have some kind of an emergency budget for that surprise that pops up. And mine very quickly went from 10% to 20% because of the crazy things that we would find. You just don't know. You just don't know, So I'd rather have that little cushion so that I can feel confident and secure in the decision I'm making. So with this, I would come up with whatever this budget was going to be. So like on this one, the total budget for the repairs and for all the lighting, the fans, the fixtures, the faucets, the door handles, everything, and the labor, that it calculated out to this. And the dumpsters. Don't forget your dumpsters. You probably need two dumpsters per property if it's a smaller one. And then I would add this to the cost of the purchase, or I would use this number to help me negotiate. So obviously, I would look at the sales, the comps in the area for houses that were updated. And also, you really have to make sure that your updates are similar to the other houses that have sold that have been renovated in the neighborhood. Because I have seen where some investors will not do it up to par, and it drives me insane. It's like you go to this really nice neighborhood where all the houses are, like it's gonna be professional. You might have, like, two partners that are professionals and they are expecting some things, right? So if you're buying a nice house and you're two professionals, then in South Louisiana, I can assure you of a few things. Number one, your master is definitely going to be separate from the two other, or two, three, whatever other bedrooms. It is not going to be on the same side of the house. If it is, you got a problem. Number two is, in that master suite, you better have a separate tub and a walk-in shower. That will not fly any other way here. I mean, maybe if the shower is like really, really badass and like has amazing tile or something like that, maybe you could get away with it. But I'm telling you, I would not take the risk. You have to have a soaking tub and a shower. And then in terms of like all the finishes, kind of the same thing. You will not get away in those houses with just painting over 1970s cabinets. You will lose a sale so fast. Like, people will walk in and out of your house so quick. They'll be, because every other house has the new cabinetry. They have the new vanities in the bathroom. They have a walk-in shower and a tub. They have a walk-in closet in the master suite. So you have to know the market and the neighborhood that you're in. If you're not doing everything that everybody else is doing, and if you're doing less than that, then your house will sit on the market, or it will just, the price will just decline until somebody's willing to pay the price. But this is how I came up with the budget and how I would negotiate with them. I never really wanted to be more than about 75% of market value once I figured out what the after repair value would be. And of course, like, I'm a little bit flexible with that. It really just depends on the price of the house, how much that profit margin is going to be, like what is the number? Because on some of these smaller houses, it might only be 20,000. So it's like, it better be worth it? But that's kind of how I came up with that. And then, of course, because I already have a license, I would list myself so that I wouldn't have to have that, expense of a realtor fee on the list side. But then I was offering an appropriate fee on the buy side to make sure that I get enough buyers in the door. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can think of right off the bat. Um, that's kind of it in a nutshell for the most part. It's like finding them, designing them, making sure that they are up to par, making sure that you understand the budgeting side, finding a good crew that you can work with on a regular basis that does a good job and works hard and is affordable. Um, Anything else that you guys can think of that I did not mention or that you have questions about? I can talk a little bit about financing. This I can talk about a little bit more in depth. I will tell you that for the first 4 years at least that I was doing this, I only would partner with other people that wanted to invest the funds. And we would just kind of split the profits 50-50 at the end. Not saying that that's necessarily a good idea, because you will get burned out eventually if that's how you're doing it. However, the positive side of that is that you're not having to pay a monthly note back to a bank necessarily every month, and the stress of that, and then the stress of trying to get it sold as you're watching your income from the sale just kind of disappear. So I did like being able to do that. However, there were also times that I did use like some private investors that were willing to fund the whole project and all the renovations. So that was nice too. But that's whenever I start getting nervous, because it's like those are higher monthly notes and you want this sucker to sell as fast as possible. And you really have to, like, it depends on your market, because not all markets are in a position where it's going to go quickly. So you have to be very careful and cautious about that. And then, of course, you can always go to the bank for something similar. I think every bank is different. So it doesn't, like, me speaking on one particular bank isn't going to necessarily do any justice, but always your smaller local banks are going to be the best bet usually for that type of thing, because you can, they make those decisions in house and you can go to them and explain the project. They understand the market, they understand the area, they understand the demand for housing in the area and stuff like that. So it's a better option, in my opinion, if you go to one of the local banks and pick their brain about what they're willing to to lend on. So that's an option too. It's definitely an option. I would say, please steer away from all these companies that you see online that are like, oh, we'll fund your project in 24 hours. And I have seen some very scary things happen in this industry with people that thought that they were getting a good deal with a lender because it was more of like a private money situation. And they thought it would be more difficult to go through a bank and have to wait the full 30 days or whatever, 45 days, however long it would take to get the financing complete. So they would try to find some of the people that were, private money lenders. And I have seen them change their offering mid transaction. Like they would say that it was going to be one certain interest rate and a certain down payment or a certain blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing you know, it's completely different and putting people in these really, really scary positions. And I even had a friend reach out to me, or maybe it was just a Facebook friend, like, hey, please help my girlfriend. She got tied up into this private money situation. She's flipping this house and now they're saying that like it needs a new roof and she doesn't have the money and she's going to have to go back to and like it's a really bad situation and she is going to be in a bad spot. And I was like, oh my gosh, why? Why wouldn't she have called me before? Why didn't you tell her to call me before? And of course, people do what they're going to do. But I have seen some very scary things. So it's like be cautious who you get involved with when it comes to financing because they can change their minds very quickly about what they're offering you. And there's not a whole lot of regulation in terms of it's not like residential mortgages. Like in residential mortgages, you are highly protected. There are so many regulations, so many rules that like nobody could get away with taking advantage of you in that realm. But when it comes to more commercial type investment loans, none of that is regulated. Like it's like it's a free for all. Like you just don't even know what to anticipate. So I would be very, very cautious in that arena for sure. Um, so definitely if you have people that clients that that might be interested in investing versus like going to one of these private money lenders, at least it's somebody that like and trust that you can sit down with and negotiate whatever it is that you need to negotiate and make sure that you have it in writing. Although I will say that many of my deals have not been in writing, but they're also attorneys. So like, it's like, well, I have your money, so it, if you trust me enough to take your money, if you needed to sue me, you could. Like so and for me, it's like I'm not going to mess with an attorney, like not a penny, because I know that they could turn around and sue me if they wanted to. So, but anyway, so that's kind of where I've gotten a lot of the funding from, and it's just worked out really well because we both win at the end of the day. We both, make some money off of these renovation projects. So, so yeah, so that's kind of where the financing can come from for sure. What else? What else can I help you guys learn today? While you have me here, I know you guys have some kind of questions. You want to make some up? Are you trying to ask me something, Miss Karen? Oh, she was
Yeah,
trying to.
there
Oh,
I
there we
am.
go.
I'm figuring it
Yeah.
out. Um, now what was I going to ask you? Uh, when you've tried to find your people to work for you, to do the job, that's always a difficult thing for me to
Yeah.
get good people. How do you find people? I know you said
So,
some realtor gave you a crew and stuff, and I have a couple crews, but I need more.
yeah. And I did actually notice your post this morning asking for more help. So that is how I found a lot of people. I will ask other people that are doing renovations, other people that flip houses. And I won't necessarily be like, hey, can you give me your crew? It's like, no, hey, do you know somebody that paints? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of how I've been able to get my foot in the door with some people because a lot of times, so this crew, when they first started working with me, I think I'm like, which one of they're all brothers. Okay. Like one of them's a roofer. One of them does like painting
Yeah.
and flooring. Like, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
so it was like, got to know a couple of them in those first few flips, and then from there it was like I got to know they would refer me too. They would refer me. So once I'd get them, I would ask them like, do you know anybody that does roofs? Do you know anybody that does plumbing? Do you know anybody that does electrical? And they would hook me up with the good people that were affordable. You know what I mean? And I will say that we are in an interesting time, and I really hate bringing up politics in any way, shape, or form because it's never a good outcome. But it has been more difficult because people are more afraid to work. Like there are a lot of people that, may be undocumented, and that is why I think people are having a harder time right now finding work. Whereas I'm like, I could care less. Like whatever you need, like I will help you out, like whatever. Literally do not care. That is not my business in my opinion. So like if you want to work, let's go. But I do think that a lot of people are afraid to right now, or, they just, if they don't know you, they're not necessarily going to. So it may be actually good if you do. I know you say you have crews, it may be good to ask them for help because they may
Yeah, I
have
have.
more people. Yeah. And then I would just keep, that's kind of how I would connect with people, was that way, is like finding people through people. Or you can always, like, I'll gladly give you the name and number of my people, and like, I know they're super busy, but like they might be able to send someone else or know someone else. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. Do
I
you
never
usually
mind sharing.
do you usually have them bid the job, or do you pay them by the hour? When you have a tile guy, a painter,
They bid the job.
they bid the job.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like when I'm doing my line items, I have a very specific bid, and they'll text it to me too. Like they will text me the total price for the job and what it includes. So does it include paint? Does it include quarter round? What do I need to buy? So so that we know. And like there's still sometimes a little bit of miscommunication at times, maybe, but for the most part, like everything is in writing. Even if it's just a text message, that's fine. But then I'm able to put it into this budget and know exactly what my numbers are going to be. Because if I had to pay by the hour or anything like that, I would never be able to budget for these projects ever. So I let them deal with the hours. They have an idea of how long it's going to take them, and I let them handle all of it. So basically, at the end of the week, so I think they kind of are really good at knowing how long the project is going to take. So in the beginning, they might ask me for a little bit of upfront cost for some
Okay.
materials, which is fine. And then kind of like once a week, they'll ask for payment. So it's almost like they know what they should be paid per week, and they know how many weeks that they will be there for the most part. Now the very final payment, they don't get that from me until I have walked the property with a flashlight, like, looked for any kind
Yeah.
of, like, I am, because once they're gone, once they're paid, you will, I'm not saying you'll never get them back. Obviously the people that work with me are very good and they will come back if they have to, but to get them back off of another job after they've already finished and left yours and started another one is very difficult. So
Yeah.
that last payment, I hang on to that for dear life until I am sure that I didn't forget anything, that they didn't forget anything, and that we're done. But yeah,
Okay.
that is the only way that I would be able to budget these projects for sure. Absolutely.
Okay. And do you
Yeah.
hire special people to come in and clean at the end? You hire a cleaning service?
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes they'll even, like, if I can't find anybody, then I'll ask them if they know anybody who cleans, and sometimes they do. But I mean, even with like all of our Airbnbs, we have lots of cleaners. So it's like,
Okay.
I just ask one of them if they want to make a few extra bucks and do a new construction clean or whatever, get a house ready for listing. They understand, but it's more of a deep cleaning, a lot of
Okay.
dust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but there's plenty of people that are, because people pay really well for those types of cleaning. So people shoot out. There have been times when I did it because they paid so well. Like I don't care. I'll get
Oh,
dirty
I
all
have
day
two.
long.
Yeah. Yeah. I have two when I couldn't get anybody. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're good. They pay really well, but you can also save the money if you have to. But yeah. Um And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, if you have anybody that you are looking for, fortunately, you and I live close to each other. I don't know everybody in this group today. Some people might not be from here, but I would gladly give you all of my people because I'm not flipping as often right now as I was. And like I said, the market it has shifted over to the buyer direction. So there's a lot more houses sitting on the market than there are buyers. I think the last time that I did the numbers, we had about one buyer for every three houses on the market. So talk about having to be competitive. This is why I'm like, if these investors, and I feel bad for some of them because I feel like it's like they're just dudes and they're just like flipping a house, but they don't really know what women want or like what it should be like. And I'm thinking, well, if you've done several of these, you must know what you're doing. You must have it together. And then it's like they get it renovated and they're like, okay, I want you to come see it. And then I'm like, why did you put the master in the front of the house by the living room? Like, nobody wants that, like and because it's like dudes are like, yeah, man, it's like easy access, like it's close to the front. It's like, no, no, that is not. So, it's like you also kind of have to make sure that these investors actually know what they're doing too sometimes. But yeah, so I haven't been doing as many. I still have one that I'm working on some siding on, and then I'll be putting that one on the market, back on the market. Fortunately, it's a very low price point. It's like $140,000. I don't think you can find anything else renovated that nicely for 140,000 on a half acre. So hopefully I won't have any issues with selling it. But yeah, so yeah, I gladly pass them on. They're
Okay.
always looking for work for sure. What else you guys got?
Let's see.
Denise, you don't have any questions? I know you have some questions. You always have questions.
Not this time.
No, you ready to hit the ground running?
Yep, as always.
Tiffany, you got any questions for me? I don't even know if I did like a really good job at this. I was just kind of like, hey, I'm about to leave. What's the easiest thing that I can teach really fast? So I know there have to be more questions about things. Like what haven't I covered? I don't really
Well,
know.
I'm looking at the photos of the houses that you did on Genevieve. And so
Hmm.
you took all that brick and painted it white.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
what you did? And then you redid the landscaping. It doesn't show any insides of the pictures, inside
Oh,
pictures of the houses, but I'm just looking from the outside, which you've done. Yeah.
that is because in Louisiana, it's like I forgot what the name, what it's called. But basically after the closing, I don't think that the general public has a whole lot of access to photos. I can't remember what that's called. Who knows?
Oh, okay.
Something to do with like trying to protect realtors and the real estate but let's
Okay.
see. Maybe I
And
can find it.
you
Yeah,
left the
because
crack in the driveway. That didn't affect anything.
No, now it does
Okay.
depend because like if it is like if you could stick your finger in that crack or well, not so much a finger, but let's say it was cocked up, like kicked up some where
Mhm.
it was a trip hazard, then that would
Then
not
you
have
would. Okay.
passed. Yeah, we would have had to do
Okay.
it, but in this event we didn't have to because it wasn't like a trip hazard necessarily. I don't even know if I'm spelling this
Okay.
right.
And it looks like you took out all the overgrown bushes and made the landscaping real simple.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
cleaned it up for sure. Let's see. Here we go. These are some of the pictures. So you can see what the interior kind of looked like.
Let's see.
And this one was one that had a lot of surprises. So I'm trying to think. This was kind of, and it was an older house. You know how older houses kind of have
Yeah.
like a formal living and dining and all that. So it had like extra rooms. So this would have been more of a formal sitting area, I guess. And then the design of the beam was interesting. Not exactly what I would have wanted, but that was kind of because of the way that it needed to have a load bearing position. This was kind of what the guys ended up working out. I thought it was a little weird, but it ended up coming out really nicely. But it's like the whites and the pretty fresh flooring, all new cabinets, the stainless steel appliances, new lighting, new hardware on everything, granite, always granite. Floating shelves has been a new thing. That's the laundry room. Bedroom, bathroom, new vanities, new toilet. We kept the original tubs because it was the really heavy cast iron tubs and we just did tile. Of course, this wasn't like a high-end price point house where you would have the separate shower necessarily. That was a master bath. Came out really nice with the new vanity and just tiling the back and the backyard. Actually, the backyard had a lot of big overgrown type trees, so those got to go away. But yeah, that one was a fun one. And now it's like I am knee deep in construction on my own house. So my own house is getting renovated right now. I've been sleeping in my living room for I don't even know how long. Um, Several months and upstairs as well. Like I've been sleeping upstairs and in my living room because the entire rest of my house is under construction. And I'm always trying to run and find different places to do Zooms and to do meetings. And that's why I'm always somewhere else every day. I'm at the office today. So I've been trying to come to the office more. It makes me feel grounded. So that's good. Let's see. Somebody put some. I don't think you can hear me, but I was wondering approximately how long it typically takes the different crews to give you estimates on cost repair. I would say usually a few days. Of course, I have to bug them because they get busy, but usually within a few days, like if they know that our timeline is coming up, they can get it to me within a couple days, maybe within a week tops. But yeah, typically it's not super long. But I do have to stay on top of them because they'll get busy on another project and they'll kind of forget about it for sure. Um, but yeah, it shouldn't take too long. They understand like the time that it takes. Like and for them too, a lot of it is like, okay, with paint, it's probably like what's the square footage of the house? Okay, it's probably going to be like, I don't know, $3 a square foot or $4 a square foot. Same thing with the flooring. Like the flooring, I'm going to purchase the flooring myself plus a 10%. Like, so if the house is 2,000 square feet, I'm buying 2,000 square feet of flooring plus 10% for, just for, little whatever, just to have extra. But they know the cost of what it is for them. Like they have a price that they quote to lay, say, laminate floors versus tile. Like they know all the costs. So it's not super difficult for them to figure out what the labor cost will be because they already kind of have that number in their head of what it should be. The only other thing that might take a little more time is if they're trying to figure out like, okay, how much, quarter round do I have to purchase and like putting that into the quote, or like how much paint do I have to purchase, putting that into the quote. Any kind of lumber, like lumber usually only comes into play if we're moving walls and things like that, or like, opening up walls, moving doors. But other than that, like lumber isn't really an issue. It's mostly like the crown molding or like the molding and the quarter round. On my house right now, I think the only thing that we did was open up a closet straight into the bathroom so that it was more like a Jack and Jill instead of having to go out of the bedroom to go into the bathroom. So they had to take stuff down, but not really have to put stuff up. Now, it is an old house. So my house, like every time that we start doing any kind of construction on this house, it's like on this episode of this old house. Like it's always like surprise. The reason why these bunk beds were built here was because there were plumbing lines that they were hiding. Awesome. But in our master bath, I guess you would call it, because there's like more than one sort of master-ish setup in this house. But where we stay, the tub is the enclosure. It was a really weird size. So we ended up having to get kind of a shorter tub. An average size tub is 60 inches. I ended up having to get one that was like 54 because the opening was only 57 inches. Do not ask me why. I do not understand what these people were doing, but whatever. And so there was a 3 inch gap. So that we did have to do some, um, lumber there. So like little things like that, that's when they're going to have to start figuring out lumber costs and things like that. And, I also like try to get them to help me get electrical quotes if there's electrical that needs to be done and plumbing quotes. And talking about like, having the 10% or 20% emergency budget. Even in my house, it's like electrician shows up, and I think the only thing that he was really supposed to do was add like or fix like some light fixture. Next thing you know, I've got can lights in one room, I've got extra can lights in the bathroom. We're adding extra light. Like next thing you know, we have added so many extra lights, but it was worth it because it can lights, by the way, just to note mentally, anytime that you have an older house and you're wanting to renovate an older house, adding those can lights make such a difference in making it look more modern. You almost have to add them because if you think about new construction houses or new construction in general, they have the can lights all over, the recessed lights, they're everywhere. But in the older houses, they don't have them. So when you do that and you add them, it is such a drastic difference. So I highly recommend that, especially in the more common areas like in the living room or the kitchen and stuff like that. It makes a big difference in how the house looks and how it presents and sells. Mm, huge difference. So, but yes, that is why we also need that emergency budget because you'll start doing extra things that you realize, we really should do that. So it did make a difference on our house. I didn't realize how dark it was. I mean, I should have known, but when you've been in a house for 15 years, you're not seeing the things that you've seen every day. But definitely some dark spots. There were some rooms that didn't even have lighting because it used to like it had the old like, plug in the lamp, turn on the switch, and the lamp turns on the from the switch. So we changed all that. We got rid of we put the can lights everywhere. Paneling to sheetrock. Oh yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it. Unfortunately, that paneling is a deal killer, in my opinion. It's so dated looking. I mean, the other option you could do is you could potentially like float the paneling, but if you get somebody in there, a sub, and you're like, hey, can you just float the paneling? They're gonna look at you like sideways, and it's easier for them to lay like a 1/4 inch sheetrock on top of the paneling or just remove the paneling and put up sheetrock than it is for them to have to float all of that, the lines and the paneling and everything like that. Now, there are sections of our house where that's exactly what the previous owners who were probably in their 80s did because they liked wallpaper a lot. So they like floated the paneling and then they put wallpaper on top of that. So so it's like, okay, we're taking off wallpaper. Oh, wait a minute. That is not sheetrock. That is paneling. And like you can see that they floated the paneling. So then it's like paneling has to come off too. But yeah, definitely the sheetrock. Big, big difference. That look, even though you can't like I mean, I'm used to seeing it a lot, and especially in your own house, it's hard to tell, but like it just looks so dated. And what no matter how hard you try, it just looks dated. You have to change it, no doubt. Yeah. Okay. Well, unless anybody has any other questions, we are past time. So I'm going to respect everybody's time and let you guys go. And we will see you next week. And everybody give Miss Corinne a high five and pray that she wants to come on next Tuesday and tell us her story. I really do want you guys to hear her story because it is very unique and it's very atypical. Believe it or not, Miss Corinne. I don't know if you know that, but yeah. So I'm hoping that maybe she'll come on next week and let me ask her 101 questions about her story. All right, you guys have an amazing week. See y'all later.